Hello, everyone out there in Cyberland. My name is Debbie, and I will be your host for Teen Empowerment's audio series, Senseless, and I'm a youth organizer. And remember that we have an episode every Tuesday, but today, unfortunately, is the last episode. And as your host, on behalf of Teen Empowerment, we would like to thank you all for tuning in and supporting the work of the youth and organizers and artists who put in a lot of the work to educate you guys. Wait, educate. And the purpose of Senseless is to bring awareness and solutions to the violence in Boston. And on Saturday, May 23rd, we will be having a finale event with some amazing folks from our community joining us to talk about a unified violence prevention strategy for this summer and beyond. So you guys better tune in. And we're going to get started with our last episode in a few seconds. So please tag your friends, create a watch party, share it with your friends, and let us know in the chat where you guys are watching from. And don't be afraid to comment down as you are listening. We have a very exciting episode for you guys. We will have a talk back usually, as usual, after the episode. So don't go anywhere, and we'll have a very special guest. And now I give you Senseless, an audio series brought to you by Teen Empowerment Youth. Now this one's gonna be a little harsh.
Here we are, tuning in to episode 7 of Senseless. Episode 6 was off the chain. I'm not even going to tell you what happened. So if you missed it, I highly suggest that you go back and watch it. But for now, do not touch your device. Listen to your last episode of Senseless.
All right, then, let's make this quick. I never thought you'd have another visitor, but you got 10 minutes. That's it.
Hey, Trey. Thanks for coming, bro. You don't know how much guilt and shame and sorrow I feel for what I did to Tony and to you. And most importantly, your family. I want you to know that no amount of time of being locked up will ever pay for what I did.
It took me almost a year and some change to be able to do this. And the only reason why I'm here now is it's not for you. I'm here for my sister and for myself. I realized Tony was right. She didn't want me to be consumed with bitterness, hate, and revenge. I was in that space for a while. I'm not saying I'm completely out of it, but I'm working on it.
I'm so grateful to hear that, man. I mean, I put you through hell, and I hope that one day you'll forgive me. To be honest, I'm working on forgiving myself for letting you down. And also for letting me get caught up in this senseless cycle of violence. I mean, before I shot that gun, I knew it was senseless. But because I was empty, I allowed the negative forces that were empty also to fill me. I'm so sorry, Trey. I hurt you. I hurt your aunt. I hurt your family. And I hurt our community. I really miss seeing you, man. The times we spent on that court was a bond that I will never forget. Your auntie Cheryl was so good to me. I miss seeing her. I miss her cooking too. How is she?
She's doing good. Trying to heal. She's been trying to help me and my dad develop a healthy relationship.
Dad? Wait a minute, did you just say dad?
Oh yeah, bro. I found out who my dad is. You won't believe who.
Who, bro? Spill it.
Officer Coon's partner.
Get out of here. Officer Reggie Price.
Yeah, man, Reggie Price.
Dang. You were really getting hit from all directions, huh? How's that working out for you?
It's been a challenge, but I'm working on that too.
Well, congratulations. I'm happy for you. You need your pops around, real talk. Can't believe I'm saying this, but he was one of the good cops.
Yeah, he's all right. I have a lot of forgiving to do, and we forgive other people before we forgive our own people. That's another problem. And that's another reason why I came here. Also because Quan's uncle Jimmy, who was locked up here, has been organizing something for the past year. A community, a truce, a visual for the living and those who are no longer with us in our community. Now that he's out, he's able to work between the inside and outside of jail. He's been working with L Street and 10th Street to get them to squash any smoke because it's been impacting our community in a bad way. He's talking about how many of us are family, and we don't even know it, man. We're just killing each other off. It's crazy. We need resolution. I need resolution for my own health and sanity.
I feel you. Heavy on that.
All right, let's wrap this up here, huh?
Well, I'm gonna get going.
All right, bro. I just want to let you know, this means a lot to me, man. One of the first people to come and visit me, and now that you're here, I feel relieved. I hope you come and visit me again.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yo, what's up, my community? Thank y'all so much for being here for today's community truce and celebration. As you all know, I'm Uncle Jimmy. Y'all probably know me as Big Jim. Most of y'all thought I was Big Jim before I got locked up. Well, I was sent away this last time for 8 years. This last time in prison, I realized that as a Black man, I can't just stand by and watch my community go astray. We are a powerful, beautiful people that have been impacted by things of the past that weren't in our control. But we have what it takes as a people to take back control of our lives and our community. This community celebration marks the beginning of us forgiving each other, loving one another, and working together. I see 10th Street here. And I see L Street here. And everybody's associated. We are all family. And today we're gonna show you how we can come together and celebrate us without the self-hate and the violence, but with the love and respect. If you thought you were strong before, try this. Try squashing the smoke, the differences and the vengeance, and see where your real strength lies. So today we're gonna celebrate. We have so many intelligent and talented people in our community. We have some of our community members here who are gonna perform today to celebrate us. We have Nana, who's gonna do a song for us, and none other than Trey, who's gonna spit some fire for us. But before we get started with them, I got this one joint I sent my nephew some time ago. And I don't know if I ever reached out to you guys, but I definitely want you guys to take a listen.
Someone got that bass.
First things first, I think the worst things first. Introspective with my thoughts, good on my worst days worst. Disconnected from myself, I need perspective on my health. Been reflective, they feel threatened on my worst days cursed. Hey, first things first, I think the worst things first. Introspective with my thoughts, got on my worst days worst. Disconnected from myself, I need perspective on my health. Been reflective, they feel threatened on my worst days cursed. I've been in my head, I've been in my head. I've been in my head, 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 I've been in my head. I'm just a man, but they been eyeing me down like a villain, saying it's all in my head. But I feel imbalance, it's making me livid. Can't get no sleep. I'm gonna rest till I peace, and maybe the feelings may flee. Many beliefs, but no one can never believe. But my mind is pressured to be, suffer from grief, hey. And that's just the way it is. Doctor promised me a way to fix all that, but where it is. No patience, this pain's deep, outrageous. I'm teed up, just need love. Until then, y'all saying I've been in my head, 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 I've been in my head. First things first, I think the worst things first. Introspective with my thoughts, got all my worst days worst. Disconnected from myself, I need perspective on my health. Been reflective, they feel threatened on my worst days cursed. Hey, first things first, I think the worst things first. Introspective with my thoughts, got all my worst days worst. Disconnected from myself, I need perspective on my health. Been reflective, they feel threatened on my worst days cursed.
So caught up in my head, so many things going unsaid. Maybe it's time for something new. My closure's overdue. Why can't you see that my mental is not the same? Then when it's too late, I'll let you feel ashamed. But you caused all the pain that I feel. I keep asking if it's real, and it is. So listen, pay attention. My mind is still stuck, and it sucks. So please free my mind. Free my mind of this poverty I see every day. Free my mind of education that seems fake. Whoa, whoa. Free my mind of a random bullet that may come my way. My way, my way. Free my mind of racist things that might make me feel so much hate. Whoa, free my mind of all these things. Free my mind of all these things. Whoa, I'm chasing dreams that may challenge me 'cause of my skin. Whoa, the line between love and hate is very thin, but I choose to let my voice shine within. I won't give in, I'm too good. All of your games, that's the shame. Does the spread on me? Can't you see it's contagious? It's outrageous. Got me stressing, so depressing. Free my mind of poverty that I see every day. Education that seems so fake. All of the racist things that might make
boy heart stopping. I can keep dying. Another mother cries, the news covers a private. And then I hear her, that's a witness. You gotta be a star player, get up off them benches. See, life ain't for no takers. Life is for the giving. 2020 years a puzzle. Walk the pieces you picking. And I just wanna change my environment. And if you fail a couple times, keep trying it. And all the product on the street, don't be buying it. It gotta be black owned if I'm trying it. See, my lyrics, my community, I'm tying it. I got a plane full of my people, and I'm flying it. See, don't worry about me, I'm only promoting peace. It's for every black boy that's hopeless and couldn't breathe. Wink, wink.
Unconditional, very visible, only sensible love, yeah. Unconditional, very visible, only sensible love.
Don't be belittled by my looks, yes, I rhyme well. Hoping that my words would pay off on the time tells. Life is not a joke, like if I'm watching Seinfeld. And just because my pigment, I'm distant with confined cells. But you see me, I am happy and I'm black. Call me Malcolm with an S, I finesse, and that's a fact. When I'm walking through the hood, feel like a target's on my back. Martin walked 54 miles just to be exact. Just for that, I wanna fight for every right in the book. Just like I'm Rosa, I'll be walking through the park until the revolution's over. I done felt the coldest cuff and the weight that's on my shoulder. Boys getting peached inside the streets and then they story's over. I want more leaders, I want more triers, I want more doers and way less liars. Do you understand? On plantations they used to buy us. The world's gonna change while it's standing right beside us, and that's on God. I want you to get up today. I want you to fight for what you want. You know, everybody has their problem. The situations is very difficult, I get it. But you need unconditional love. But keep fighting. No matter anything, keep fighting. Oh God.
I want to thank my community for this day that we are honoring us. Let this be the beginning of a new us. I have commitments from L Street, 10th Street, and others from our community about how we're going to move forward with this truce and focus our efforts on fighting together to get what we need as a community. Let's leave here inspired and in peace and never go back. Love y'all.
Thank you for tuning in to episode 7, our final episode of Senseless, the audio series. On Saturday, May 23rd, we will have a virtual finale event celebrating the work of the series and discussing current violence prevention strategies for this summer of COVID-19 and into the future. This final event is with the members of our community and for the community. We hope to see you there. Now back to our host, Debbie.
Hi guys, and welcome back to Teen Empowerment's Talk Back of Senseless, the audio series. I'm your host, Debbie, and I hope everyone enjoyed Senseless. Joining us for our talkbacks are some of the characters from tonight's episode, along with Teen Empowerment's Executive Director, who will be discussing how tonight's episode relates to their lives. Please welcome Izzy, who plays Monty, C4, who plays Trey, Ja'Cory. Wait, is C4 on? Anyways, Ja'Cory, who plays Uncle Jimmy. There you go. And our special guest, Abigail Forrester. Did I say her name right? Forrester? Teen Empowerment Executive Director. Thank you all for joining us. So, straight to it. So, Abigail, can you please tell us how this episode relates to your life and why you think having a discussion about this episode is important?
Yeah, no, I want to say thank you, Debbie, and the rest of the YOs for holding this down. This has been like
Oh,
an
we can't
amazing.
hear you.
Is there a mute? Am I on
Oh, there we
mute?
go.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, I just want to thank you all for holding this down, man.
Amazing.
This has been an amazing series, and Debbie, you've done a wonderful job being the host of this. Yeah, this relates to me directly because, many folks know that I've been incarcerated. I was like on the front end of the mandatory minimum sentence
Now we
and did a 10-year mandatory sentence. And, just the story of listening to how Jimmy was talking about the impact of his choices, and this episode really, it's just really this ripple effect of how you make a choice and you think you're making that choice that's only going to impact you, but it has a ripple effect on your family and the people that you love. And for me directly, when I first ended up incarcerated, I had my first child and she was only 5 months old when I went away. And so that was very impactful to me and had me really thinking about the decisions and choices that I would make as my life moves forward.
thank you so much, Abigail, and for those words. Uncle Jimmy had said while in jail that he realized that as a black man, he can't stand by and just watch his community go astray. As a black man who was incarcerated and came out working as an activist for your community, before you were incarcerated, were you participating in standing by and watching your community go astray? What made you see it and what was your turning point?
Yeah, no, I was not only standing by and watching my community go astray, I was an active participant in perpetuating some of the sort of what I call liability dynamics that existed in my community because I was suffering from my own, trauma, my own sort of negative experiences, and really like not being clear about how to make good choices in life because of the things that I had gone through in my community. So I wasn't just a bystander. I was like, these are the things that I had to evaluate myself and really take a look inwardly about who I am and what am I going to perpetuate as somebody who supposedly loves my community, but I'm making choices that really not only hurt my loved ones and my community, my community and my loved ones, but also like the community at large. Yeah, and then you go through this phase where you start thinking about those pieces, but I think that like sometimes you can't just skip yourself in the process. You have to also focus on what are the growth areas that you need as an individual. For me, one of the things that I realized that I adopted was a street corner value system. Once I left my home and got out there, I started thinking like other people thought, basically in the streets. And I developed a value system that was about surviving and trying to make it through life. And the turnaround point for me was like to really take a look at like how could I develop to be an asset. So yeah, I was not only a bystander, but I was also a contributor and perpetuator of some of the things that was wrong in my community.
Thank you for that. I feel like that's a good question for the community to ask themselves. Like, are you a bystander? Like, what are you doing? But as a youth living in Roxbury, Dorchester, and Mattapan, what keeps you guys focused on positive things and not getting caught up? Anybody can go first.
I'll take that.
What,
You hear me? You guys hear me?
yeah.
Yeah, when it comes down to it for myself, it's just all about values. For me, it's like growing up, I was in a tough environment and I could easily been inspired by like the people around me and that could have influenced my actions moving forward. But my values, I know deep down within inside myself and the support that I did surround myself around and the environment when it comes to like getting advice or getting any type of help from people, the people that was able to help me and influence me were people who were trying to, work towards unifying our community and, togetherness. And I think that's just important to have that option rather than be stranded without. So yeah.
What I said would keep me focused would have to be my mom. Like she came here with nothing and she sacrificed so much for me. So for me to like go out of like my not go out of my way, but like to go down the wrong path, I feel it would hurt me to see her like all her efforts go to waste. So I feel like she's what keeps me grounded. And yeah, I agree with you with the values things. I think we all need to like ask ourselves what are our values. That's a really good question. We barely ask ourselves nowadays.
Yeah, and if I can compliment that, I think like, we live in a time where a lot of, when we think about violence, some of the violence is being perpetuated as a form of culture. As you start to look at like Facebook and all these different mediums of exchange, sometimes violence is just on there as a form of entertainment. When I was coming up, that wasn't the case. Violence was the cause of violence was sometimes, people trying to, run neighborhoods because they were making money and selling drugs and all these other things. But now you start to see that this violence has become a culture. I think Jakari's point is poignant around the fact that like this, when you sort of look at values versus culture, your values, if you're guided by your values and your principles and the goals that you want to achieve, it kind of can allow you to stick to a certain level of positivity opposed to being sucked up in the environment and the culture that's in the environment. So I think like this idea around culture and values is a very important delineation and discussion that we have to continue to have around where we are with violence right now.
You have any follow up C4 Izzy?
Yes. I would say one thing for me is just having faith. That faith, things will come better within, my community and around, just Boston and blessing it as a whole. Also too, just like Jacory said, morals is definitely a thing where it's like, no matter what, in any situation, if something's going against that, um you got to be able to have the discipline, the mindset, and be able to to really shun it away, and being in a community where everything is temptation. It's like it's so easy to get in trouble. Sometimes I've heard, uh, um trouble's everywhere, and sometimes, it you don't go to it, it comes to you. So morals is definitely a big factor. Believing in a higher power, and knowing, just knowing wrong from right.
Right, right. I feel like sometimes people feel as if they don't even have control over that, like over their own values. And I feel like that's where you like give in and like start letting, like, I don't know, whatever the system might be, like define your own destiny and whatnot.
Yeah. Yeah, if I could say something to that point real quick too, I think like, we all have different levels of resilience, and it's powerful to hear the young men on here talking about, morals and values and being able to, be resilient. But everyone has different levels of resilience, and that's why you find in the world, you take, let's say a spiritual leader will have millions of people who are following them because people are trying to find some place to identify with. And sometimes like that only place when you're constricted to a neighborhood and your access to opportunities are limited, that only places somebody that's hanging on the corner or a friend or a peer that's not making good decisions. We have to figure out ways, especially as we partner with young people as adults, how do we connect with you in a way that allows you to be able to get the support you need to stick to the positive decisions that you want to make and not be influenced by environment. So I think those points that just was made were very critical when thinking about how violence plays out in our community and how young people get influenced but don't have higher levels of resilience for whatever reason, in being involved in violence and violent behavior.
Definitely agree. And it's like, it's interesting to like see, oh, you can go ahead, Izzy.
Yeah, I was waiting to go. Yeah, so one thing that really keeps like me positive and like out of the stuff that goes around is really just reaching out to other people and showing support through what they have, like what aspects they have, really. Because some people struggle to reveal the problems they have and why they're struggling to get where they need. And I just currently reach out to people to see what they are, and I go throughout supporting them. Like I've met like so many people like through different walks of life, whether like Asian, white, black, and they admire what I do. Like I do like videography, I do short films, I write scripts for different kinds of people, and we put projects together. And I'm able to get people to participate in it. So it's really just going out and supporting others, so they'll give you the support you'll need too. So it's really just having to look out for each other, no matter what the situation is, no matter where you come from.
Preach. Support does go a long way, but definitely. And do you guys think that like the possibility of jail is in the forefront of the minds of young people? Why or why not? Mm, that right there.
I'll let one of you. I'll let one of you start the conversation. I'll jump in.
Coach Corey.
All right. I'm looking at you too. I'm like, yo, is this people? I don't think that when it comes to like situations now, I don't think people are really thinking about what's happening in the future. Unfortunately, I think it's all like within the moment. And with that being said, it's hard to kind of like figure out, what direction you want to go, like what direction you're trying to go in for yourself. In a position like that where there's like so much negative influences and stuff like that, you probably haven't figured out yourself yet. And so I know it's just like I've watched many people, put themselves in positions where, they glorify like this street life, they glorify like jail, and it's like almost, what I mean, like it's a good thing that you go here to get credit and street credit and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, it's just like it's not really you know, worth the wait, worth the time wasted. Yeah,
Yeah, I would follow through on that to say like there's this concept with Martin Luther King talked about the urgency of now, and that urgency of now doesn't only apply in a positive way. The urgency of now also applies when you have experienced some things in life and you have gaps in your life. I tell people all the time that like when I look back at my stint of being in the life of like drug dealing and being in that atmosphere, I don't talk about I was addicted to drug dealing. I was a low self-esteem addict, meaning that there were gaps. My father left my home when I was 5 years old, and I had gaps that needed to be filled. So when I started to really commit myself to that lifestyle, there was like residuals of that, like getting attention, people liking you, having money, helping your friends who didn't have, because you were making money. There were all these urgencies of now, both emotionally and in the physical environment, that like was more important than going to jail. And in some aspects, like, going to jail, if you understand the mentality, like, when you first got your court case as a young person, if you were in a certain atmosphere, that was like getting stripes. So like, when you start talking about, I was watching a show on like CNN, they were talking about COVID-19, and part of it was talking about like the impact on Black communities. And I was saying to myself, but like most young people who are out there, most people who are out there trying to live day to day, they're not watching CNN. So the question becomes, that's what's so powerful about what we try to do at Teen Empowerment through the advocacy and the work that we're doing right now, even doing this sort of Senseless series, right? Is how do we bring ourselves to a level where we're bringing information through mediums of exchange, where people who on the day-to-day, the sort of the mediums of exchange that they use, they're having access to know what's really going on in the real world. So I didn't know that there were mandatory minimums being dished out for drug dealing when I first got my case. So I don't think that jail is in the forefront. I think the urgency of now, whatever that need is, whatever gap that young people are feeling, takes the precedence over like the long-term impact of the choices that they make.
Preach.
Facts. To kind of add on to that, I feel that I don't think it's in the future if the person doesn't want that. And even then, I know people that try to avoid, as much criminals activity, things like that, as much as possible. And still, ended up in it somehow, some way. And like, like you don't know what the future is gonna bring, what tomorrow's gonna bring. And that's why the now concept is so um 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 real in a way, because when things happen, they happen so fast sometimes that you don't even notice. And that is always a thing when it comes down to uh uh government, police, authority, because also too, you got to look at it as looking through their eyes, and you looking through your eyes. There's so many different ways things can go. So I feel, it's definitely not in the future if no one wants it to be in their future. If you want to, stand clear of that, that's possible. And like I said, if you look at something and look at examples of people who've been through it as well and take from that, that I feel like that's less of a chance of doing of being in those positions, really.
Great point. Great point. Um, yeah, I don't know if anybody else wants to say anything. I'll pause, but I think that's a great point. Go ahead. You want to say something? Sorry. Okay, I was going to say I was going to speak to that point about what you want in your future, and that was one of the ways that when I always say when I ended up incarcerated was the first time I really met men. And what I mean by that was like really men who was able to challenge me and step into my space, in my 360 space, and say to me like, what do you really want out of life? Like this is not this, these decisions that you made was really a choice. At the end of the day, you could say environment, you can say all these other things, but you're here because of a choice. And these were men who were doing life sentences and never coming home. They were asking me, is that do I want this for the rest of my life? And so I had to really take a step back and really think about like, because as the young man said, C4 said, like there were people who actually were that I grew up with that were navigating and didn't end up where I ended up because they were fortified and made different choices, right? So at the end of the day, we can always classify and say like this outcome is going to be my outcome because that's the easy way out. But there are other people who are making different choices and taking risk, quite frankly. And that risk might be, listen, I'm gonna go live with my aunt down south or somewhere. I'm gonna get out of here because I know that the block is hot and this ain't for me, right? So there's choices and accountabilities that's still in the midst of all of the external forces that work against us, man, to lead primarily young people of black and brown folks of color, especially young folks of color, astray. There are also opportunities. So yes, I agree totally that it's like all of this that we see in front of us don't have to be our future.
And I feel like it's kind of hard because most of the people in the Black community don't even know themselves that much. Like tying it back to that point of how everybody has different points of resilience. Like I feel like not everybody knows what's good for them or like what's not good for them. They just take whatever it's given to them, and that's where we're going wrong. Like we need to start, like what you were saying, Jacory, you got to find your own purpose, or somebody else will make it for you. And that is like where we start to get into the path of like destruction, honestly. But
Facts.
because of these criminal acts of a few, most young people of color are labeled as criminals. What do you guys think is the impact of that? Of being labeled as a criminal. I kind of talked about it a little bit.
Yeah.
But let's talk about a moment when you guys felt as if you yourself were labeled as a criminal, and how did that impact you personally? Anybody could go first.
I'll go first. I believe, I mean, there's been countless, altercations. And the first thing that I always think is, why me? Out of everything that I'm doing, I done did a lot to, feel good about myself in a positive way, to the point where, helping my community is a key essential in my life. Knowing better for myself is, a thing in my life. And I remember going to a show and in New Hampshire. I was gonna perform at Cloud9, and I remember I had a Caucasian friend, and he had his girlfriend, and we went out to the show. After we did the show, was good. We left on our way to Boston, going back. This cop, he sees us at a red light. As he's turning, his headlights hit us, so he can see that I'm in the back. A person's driving, person in the passenger. As they do that right, they turn left and part and like go behind us. And anytime I've ever, been in situations where it's like, okay, this cops behind us, whatever. Every time I look, I always be like, I know what's gonna happen, and it always does. So they pulled us over, and You know, no one had no drugs, nothing affiliated of negativity in the car, and they took us out. Um, and the whole reason why they stopped us is because they said that I looked suspicious in the back. Now, mind you, I'm the only black person in the car. They like I look suspicious in the back, and that right there of that suspiciousness was like, okay, so when did I not ever look, innocent? When did I stop becoming a human being and having just a plain look on my face and being me, turn into looking suspicious?
Yeah.
They did also too. The police had my brother pick us up from the station, and they didn't follow a lot of procedures that they were supposed to. They put me and a female in the same car, which they're not supposed to do. They put us in a holding cell, and they had my brother pick me up, but they took my brother took my friends that was with me, which they're not supposed to do that because that's not their legal guardian or whatever the case may be. So there's just so much to it down to the system where it's not confirmed down to a T of what uh police are following. It's always everywhere, and there's always assumptions. But what can you say when you're in that position, and they're so-called the authorities? They're the upfront that's supposed to be keeping us safe and still put in order. So it that's one situation where I felt uncomfortable. And me, I've never been in a cell. I've been in a car with cuffs and things like that over nonsense, which it just doesn't feel right. You can, being in those positions, you feel out of place. So that was, I would say, one situation that really boiled my blood. So I had to think of different ways to be you know I would say, not really coating with what's gonna happen is gonna happen, but just knowing that this is the way things are and knowing how to move after that.
Thank you.
I think also to the point of that story is that, like, when we start to understand like the impact of what I call psychological engineering, right? So like in communities, right, there's civil engineering. That's how they map out roads and streets and how things are going to happen. But there's also psychological engineering. And that psychological engineering creates a level of imagery that, like, as soon as you see something, you identify it as being something, right? So through media and all these media exchange, there's a constant bombarding of showing primarily black males, right, black and brown males, in risky situations, in situations where they're seen as being a suspect, right? And so the more and more that projection is put out there, not only because I've been on both sides, right? I've been like, sort of like, when I say both sides, meaning that I've been rightfully seen as being suspicious, to be honest, and I've been on the side where, like, I'm not doing anything and I'm being classified as being a suspect of something. But I also understand that, like, there's this constant medium of exchange around what black people, black males, are capable of doing, and they start off looking at us from a risk standpoint, opposed from a humanistic standpoint. And so all of these pieces play a role in how we get dealt with, across the board. One of the challenges that I've seen even over time, and how, again, I think culture plays a role in some of this imagery, is like, when I was coming up, you knew the young men and young ladies who are like positive from those who are negative, right? Now you got young brothers and sisters who are like, want to go to college, aspire to go to Spelman, but they walking with swagger like they're a drug dealer. They're wearing chains and going to get the cheap, going to the dollar store and getting like the fake gear, looking like they're gangster. And it's like, but they're not even in the gangster life, right? So there's all these things that's now playing a role that has led to an overall classification of our community and our young people that we got to be careful of. And I'm not saying it justifies being wrongfully profiled, but like, the culture has been infested with this imagery that, like, if I don't wear my pants sag, and if I don't got, even if I'm a good kid, I don't get no love. You know what I'm saying? And so that all of this is built into, I think, some of the ways on how we're being addressed. Again, it doesn't justify these treatments that we get, but all of this bombarding of imagery around who we are and who we're not is really hurting us on many levels.
I agree.
That's a fact.
Corey, is it you guys have any follow up on how, like, in a moment where you felt
Yeah, just
criminalized?
yeah, just following up on that. Like at that situation, you just feel powerless because you got someone on the side of the law that's against you, and it's really just like a system that's designed to keep people like us down. Because I remember, I think this was about 2 years ago. I think I was only 16, and I was coming from the hospital when my cousin got murdered. And my dad was driving, and we got pulled over. Like right when we pulled off, we got pulled over. Now there's cops everywhere because of an incident that just happened. My cousin got killed. So as he pulls us over, instead of going to the driver's side to inspect my dad, he comes to my side. So at the moment, he's asking me for my ID and my registration. And at the time, I didn't have that yet. So my dad's, he's getting frustrated. He knows he has to hold it in because of the situation we're in right now. Because he's scared in his head. He's like, he didn't even come to my side. He came to my child's side. He can pull out a gun anytime and pull it off if he wants to. He didn't even come to my side. And he's keeping my son hostile at this sort of situation. So it just came scary at that moment. Because, like, at any situation, there's nothing you can really do because you feel powerless.
Exactly. And it's like a really traumatic thing to go through. Sorry that had happened to you. And thank you guys all for sharing. And we really do need to have conversations on the psychological effect that these traumatic experiences have, because we come to, like, we go home and we start thinking, like, is there something wrong with me? Like, you start, looking inside and, like, feeling bad about yourself. And that's kind of a way where they try to control us. And, like, you were saying, C4, like, you knew that they weren't supposed to do that. You knew their procedures. So that's why it's heavily emphasized to know your rights, especially in the black community. Because they
And
try
the thing is,
to.
too, knowing your rights can also get you in sticky situations. So it's like,
That's right.
speaking against that and speaking against that authority and that force, it's like, well, no, because this is how. And to think about it, I'm not even in my neck of the woods. I'm there for a show. I'm there because I'm an artist. I'm there because I just left a venue, and and this is a so-called routine traffic stop with a suspicious person looking back. So yeah, but continue.
It's okay. And it sucks that they don't even, like, listen to the story or listen to, like, why you're there. They're like Abigail was saying, they just look at it from, like, a negative point. They don't even start looking at you as a human. That's why we just, and also Izzy, like your dad, we need to emphasize on procedures where we have, like, know how to handle the situation. It's unfortunate that we as the community need to do that, but protect ourselves and those we love to be able to do. But I just want to thank you guys again for tuning into the final episode of Senseless, the audio series. And don't forget that on Saturday, May 23rd, we will have Rally, a virtual event. And we'll be featuring a panel discussion on a violence prevention strategy for the summer of COVID-19 and beyond. So, Teen Empowerment will bring together activist Talia Wright Rivera, program director for SOAR Boston at the Boston Center for Youth and Families, Ricky Grant, chief of community engagement for the Suffolk District Attorney's Office, our very own Abigail Foster, executive director for Teen Empowerment, youth activist Carrie Mays, Ja'Cory Martins, and yours truly, your host, Debbie. And starting at 5 p.m., we will be airing the entire series, like from the first episode to the end. At 6:30, the panel discussion will start. So before that, we'll just be having the episodes back to back. We hope to see you guys on Saturday, but for now, we are signing off. Thank you so much, everybody, for your time. Thank you, Abigail, for joining us.
Yes,
Thank you for
everybody
having
stay
me.
blessed. Thank you, Abigail.
Yes. All right. Yes. Yes. Great job.
An amazing conversation we had.